May 12th meeting of the Midcoast Community Council. It's 7:02 p.m. and we're going to get started. First, Dave, can you please call the roll?
Unmute. Yes. Michelle Well.
Here.
Dan Haggerty. Skip Dan for a moment. You're on mute, Dan. Greg Diaz. You're on
Dan's
mute.
here.
Greg. Okay. Claire.
Here.
Jill.
I'm here.
And I'm here. So we're all here.
Perfect. Thank you. First, we're going to start with the Board of Supervisors report, and we have Lena Silberman here to give that report.
Thanks, Michelle. So I don't have too much today, but quickly on the COVID-19. So San Mateo County is now in the yellow tier, which is the least restrictive of the state's framework. This means some expanded capacity for quite a few different kinds of businesses. And also this week, the county has rescinded its social distancing and face mask guidelines, which just means that we're now going to completely align with the state guidelines. I will include some links with more information on COVID-19 data, masking, and tier status in the chat. With vaccinations, we now have a surplus of vaccine, which I know we've been waiting for quite a while. You can get vaccinations from county-sponsored clinics, community clinics, private healthcare providers, pharmacies, and other venues. You can get an appointment via MyTurn, but they are not required for most of those clinics. With the federal approval of the Pfizer vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds, we're kind of waiting on the process from the state, but are expecting MyTurn to be adapted to allow 12 to 15-year-olds to sign up for appointments by the end of this week. And after the California Department of Public Health approval of the use of that vaccine, County Health is planning to expand its weekday and its weekend Pfizer clinics to accommodate young residents who might still be in school. About the Coastal Commission and the Murata Bridge project. So the Murata Bridge project will be going to the Coastal Commission this coming Friday. The Coastal Commission has provided the county with some conditions of approval and is currently at stance. It's being recommended to approve the project with these conditions, and the county is ready to adhere to those conditions if the project is accepted. On this, I was asked to give a reminder, Midcoast Community Council members can speak on behalf of themselves at all forms of public meetings. And then about the Comcast outage that I know happened on May 3rd, it lasted for approximately 8 hours and it affected both the Midcoast and some surrounding cities. Comcast has told us that it was caused by a pole transfer that was done by a third party, and that the repair process was complex, and that's why it took so long. Our office, actually, I am reviewing the franchise agreement, which I will include a link to in the chat, which allows the county to request reports on a variety of details from Comcast, which we're deciding which details we want to get from them. They will then provide us those details and we can look at it compared to industry standards and see if anything needs to be done to improve that in the future. And I have a few things related to fire, but I know that fire and fuel load is going to be something that's brought up on the item of today's agenda. So I was thinking I might just hold back on those and include those later.
We do have a letter on the El Granada fire, on the eucalyptus removal in Quarry Park, but it's very specific. And then the fire topic will just be discussed during our council activity and future agenda section. So if it's related to anything maybe other than the permitting of eucalyptus tree removal, it may be better to just give it now.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. So some kind of exciting news. The project that I think Kellex told you about a little bit earlier, which was the grant from the Coastal Conservancy for a project of a fuel break. We were notified by the Coastal Conservancy this week that they would like to support this project. The exact amount of funding is still to be determined, but it's looking like it'll be about $1 million awarded to us. That amount will be confirmed at their board meeting in June. Also, the ad hoc committee that the Supervisor Horsley and Supervisor Canepa started way back, I think in October, had its second meeting a week and a half ago. And at that meeting, we were presented with a prioritization list of projects. Now, this is a little bit confusing, and if I don't explain this well, you can ask. But basically, what's being planned is that the supervisors will go and ask the board for $4 million over a span of 2 years. 2 million of that will go to parks for fuel load reduction, and the other 2 million will be broken up within programs. So this prioritization list is for that 2 million. It's still being reviewed. It should be done being reviewed by the end of this week, and the supervisor is planning to go to the county manager and present it at the end of this week, and I'll have more updates on that to come. And I think for now that is it. So thank you, and I'm happy to take some questions that I see we have.
Great, thank you, Lena. Let's start with Claire.
Thank you, Lena. I was looking at the county COVID dashboard, and it looks as though Pacifica and Half Moon Bay have fairly good success with the vaccine, although not as good as some parts of the county. The Midcoast is significantly less than either Pacifica or Half Moon Bay, which I think speaks to the fact that we have no community center, and it's very difficult to reach people who don't really want to go anywhere to get it. Can you suggest anything that we could do to maybe make some availability for shots in the Midcoast? Who should we be contacting? Who should you contact?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer to that, but what I can do is send an email to Dr. Chabra, who has been doing a lot of work on the vaccination process, and highlight that the Midcoast Community Council has noticed that the Midcoast is having less than ideal amounts of vaccines they suggest, if that would be ideal.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, happy to do that.
And if anybody else,
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but thanks for noticing that, Claire, and pointing it out. It would be great to get something done about that. Next, we'll go to Greg.
I just wanted to follow up on that. My son got vaccinated a couple of weeks ago at Avenue Alhambra at the gas station across from Princeton Harbor. So that seems to be where they're doing it. My question for Lena is regarding, you mentioned two sources of funding, 4 million from the county, and before that was a grant. Now, I want to just be clear. My understanding is that grant funding is just going to fund what's already in Nick Calderon's plan. It's not like these are new projects. So
Correct.
I guess what we'd like to see is that there were 3 projects totaling $1.2 million surrounding Quarry Park. We'd just like to see how that 1.2 million is going to be distributed for those projects. And then with respect to the additional funding, we'd like to know how that's going to be deployed coming up. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I can say that the funding from the Coastal Conservancy was for a shaded fuel break along, I believe it's the fire road on the, I would just have to check. The answer is there. I have the answer. I can give it to you. For the other question, I'll have to follow up.
Yeah, I actually have an update from Sheena. I might as well just give it now since we're already talking about it. It's pretty much what Lena was saying, but it would be for the, sorry, hold on. The fuel break, yeah, the shaded fuel break along the fire road is the first priority, and then the second would be the fuel break along the Western Park boundary. Depending on the total amount, you know, the first 1 million may only cover the first part, which is the fuel break, shaded fuel break along the fire road, and then they would support, the Coastal Conservancy would potentially support the second project, which is a fuel break along the Western Park boundary, when future funding becomes available. And then the 4 million, I don't know the details on that, Lena, but that's for the entire county, right? Not specific to our area.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Lena? Okay, let's move on to other government officials. I see Harvey here. Harvey, were you going to give an update for Half Moon Bay?
Briefly. As I'm sure you all know, Half Moon Bay shares a police force with the Midcoast. And at the last council meeting, we took an action, which I think is really a positive step. And on an upcoming, probably this Tuesday, there'll be another meeting that's related to police force policies. So what we did last meeting was we approved something that the Latino Council had recommended to us, which was the Yanira Serrano Presente program, which involves having a dedicated phone line that people can use to call to complain or compliment about police forcing, and we're going to keep that in City Hall under the city manager's office, and we'll try to follow up on any complaints or compliments. We're also going to institute a program where deputies who are assigned to the coast will have a chance to meet with community members. When COVID is relaxed, we're going to have some ride-alongs. That's a way to try to increase our interaction with the deputies in a positive way. And the third aspect that we approved was a $75,000 seed grant to try to begin to think about how we can use mental health services instead of police force response to crises. So that's, from my perspective, all positive. I think the community agrees. On this upcoming council meeting this Tuesday, we're going to be considering some changes in police policy that would affect how traffic stops can be affected. Also, how police interact with mentally ill community members, whether or not we can ban chokeholds. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is at this point putative, and that we don't know whether we have the authority to implement it, but we certainly want to head in that direction. So these are all going to be items at the community meeting, the regular council meeting, 7 o'clock Tuesday. I urge all Midcoast people who are interested in police services to come to that meeting virtually. I'll be glad to take any questions about anything related to the city council.
Thank you, Harvey. We'll go to Len first with his question.
Yes, thanks. So Harvey, in terms of the what you just mentioned with the police, should the Midcoast consider that you're representing our interests as well in a broader sense, and or should we ask the sheriffs to come speak to us as well about these topics?
We can only talk about our contract with the sheriff's department. So I would urge you as a separate organization that has interactions with the sheriff's department to consider your stake in this.
We don't have separate, let's say, separate relationships other than North Fair Oaks, for example. We'll all part of the unincorporated county, and that would be a single enforcement policy, I assume.
Yeah, that is correct. The deputies that are assigned to the coast, they have a single sheriff, a single captain who takes care of the entire coast. We have a mutual agreement that between all the coastside deputies in the city and on the coast all help each other as necessary. But you're right. Contractually, the city has its own contract with the sheriff's department. But I'm hoping that we will start a dialogue that will affect the whole way that the sheriff's department interacts with citizens.
Right, but if we wanted to understand the particulars, then we need to ask the sheriff come to talk to us.
Yes, I think so.
That's it.
Okay. Claire?
Yeah, Harvey may have addressed this, but there is a single sheriff captain, I guess he is, who oversees the coast side, both Half Moon Bay and us. And he is Saul Lopez. He has come and talked to the MCC before, and I'm sure he'd be happy to come back. So it's something we can consider.
Yep, we just had him last month, I believe, or maybe it was in March. But we can definitely ask him to come back if there's interest in talking about this separately from what Half Moon Bay is doing. Okay. I see a couple other government officials on the call or the meeting. Does anyone else want to speak?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Catherine Slater
Thank you, Catherine.
Carter, speaking in this instance as an individual, but a board member on the, to Lena's point earlier, on the Sewer Authority Midcoast side. And our budget was passed on Monday. When it had first been presented, Half Moon Bay had chosen not to approve the budget, and given the voting arrangement at SAM, that led to a tie vote. And so we were not going to be able to get our budget passed in a timely fashion to send it on to the member agencies. Half Moon Bay, we reconsidered the vote, and Half Moon Bay voted to approve the budget, saying they had made their point. I'm not sure quite what that means, but the good news is the budget was passed. And so we can move on to funding much needed repairs and getting on with projects and make sure we pay our staff and all that good stuff. I happened to be in the SAM boarding today, or the SAM offices today, and I got invited to sit in on a Zoom call that was fascinating. It was on a new piece of technology that stops odor and helps break up fats, oils, and grease in pump stations and in closed spaces. And the price on this, we're doing a test on it in June or July. I think it's July. And the test will be free. But if we do approve it, it will save all kinds of money for SAM and help to reduce odors or stop odors in problem areas. So I bring that up because I wanted to compliment the staff at SAM for always being on the lookout for ways to improve the operations and lower the costs. And then, of course, for those who watch or who read next door, you can see that we're finishing up on the second stage of the wet weather flow tanks, the SAM operations tanks in El Granada, and those are really exciting. I'm hoping folks will read the article when it goes into the review, because this is a very important project in that it's totally green. And it will help keep our beaches clean, and we don't have complex systems. It's just a beautifully engineered system. We were the first to do it in California, and Santa Cruz has actually copied us, and other agencies have since then. So again, this is one where it will not cost us a whole lot to operate this, and it will keep our beaches clean. So that's all the good news.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. And any questions for Catherine? Nope. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry. Any other government officials who'd like to speak? Okay, don't see anyone else. So let's move on. Our next item is public comment and announcements. This is comment on any items that are not on tonight's agenda. And so basically anything other than the fire station lighting in El Granada, or the permitting for eucalyptus tree removal on private property, or our Zoom account renewal. So if anyone wants to speak on any topics other than those, please go ahead and raise your hand in the Zoom interface right now. The way you do that is to click on the reactions button at the bottom of the screen for most people. If you don't find it there, it could also be under the participants list. If you're on mobile, it is under the More tab. And if you're dialing in from your phone, it would be *9. Anyone have any comments on items not on the agenda? Please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I see a caller. We don't have a name, but it's a 415 area code and the number ends in 392. If that is you, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, which Dave might have to give me the reminder of how people do that on the phone.
Should be *6
*6.
or *9, one or the other, can't remember.
*9 was to raise their hand, so they got that.
Hello.
Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Jill Grant. My internet is spotty and just went down, so I'm calling in.
Okay, and did you have a comment on something not on tonight's agenda or and an announcement to make?
The announcement is I'm on my phone now.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good. Anyone else who would like to make a comment or announcement? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, so let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is our consent agenda. We need to pull a couple items from the consent agenda
Right,
because not all of the minutes were finished.
right, we need to pull the March 10th minutes. 3D.
Dave, I didn't see April 28th posted either.
All right, I posted those the day after the meeting.
Okay, so it's posted on the last meetings.
That certainly should be.
Let me just double check. Okay, draft minutes. I see. Wait. Okay, yeah. So it is that those are there. Sorry about that. We probably should repost them again under this meeting.
Yeah,
but
I'll do that. Normally that happens when you post the agenda, but I guess you missed it.
yeah, I didn't see to do that. Well, it's been so long since we've had up-to-date minutes, so I didn't catch that. So we need to pull the March 10th from the consent agenda. And then I see Len has his hand raised.
I'd like this item moved to the regular agenda.
Okay. We will move the minutes, all of the minutes, Len?
Just one is fine. The most recent.
The April 28th. So should we leave the January 13th, 27th, and February 10th items on the consent agenda and vote on those items?
Correct.
Okay. So the April 28th minutes are going to be moved to the end of the regular agenda. We'll talk about that after item 4C. Do we have a motion to approve the items 3A, B, and C?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All right, Dave, please call the roll. This motion is to approve items 3A, B, and C.
Greg,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Dan. You're on mute, Dan.
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Len,
Yes.
and I also vote yes, so it's unanimous.
And Jill, yes,
Sorry about that, Jill.
that's okay.
I'll work
Okay,
on
so
that.
that passes 7-0. All right. We're going to move on to our regular agenda now. The first item on the regular agenda is a letter on El Granada Fire Station lighting. I'm going to have Dan present. Dan, you're already a co-host, so you should be able to go ahead and hit that green share your screen button at the bottom and then follow the prompts to share your presentation. And Dan, you're also muted, or you're not anymore, I guess. Let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, I'm sharing my keynotes.
I don't see it yet. Once you hit that green button, it should pop up a window and you should be able to select which thing you're sharing. Did you see that?
Yeah, it says whiteboard, which I'm not, is that?
No, share screen is what you want.
Okay, well, I clicked on the share screen button, the green button, which Michelle mentioned. What comes up is desktop with a triangle and an exclamation point. Whiteboard looks like, and I want Keynote, but it has the
Do
triangle.
desktop. Yeah, if you don't see Keynote there, just select desktop and we'll see everything.
Desktop has a triangle with an exclamation point. Basic, advanced, portion of screen, files, Dropbox.
Does everything have an exclamation?
On the files, no. Dropbox, OneDrive, but they don't apply. Box, Google
Would
Drive.
you like me to share it, Dan? And you can just tell me when to go on to the next screen.
Yeah, well, I guess we may have to do that. Let me try one more time.
Sure.
Open system preferences. Or maybe it's something in my system preferences that's.
Yeah, you may not have given it permission before to share.
Doing that now. So, okay. Well,
You see it?
Yeah, that's me sharing it. If you want to go ahead,
Oh.
share, Dan, you can just tell me and I'll pull this. Otherwise, just tell me when you want to go to the next screen.
Okay, so here's the title. My presentation. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time out in the evening to come to the MCC and to see this. Go ahead to the next slide. So this is the lighting scheme at the fire station 41 in El Granada currently. You can see a lot of reflection off the concrete, which goes up to the sky, and adds to the unnecessary pollution. Next. It's not lining up.
Yeah, sorry, I have to make it a little smaller.
Okay, so the International Dark Sky Association, American Medical Association, the Illuminating Engineering Society, National Audubon Society, American Astronomical Society, and the Sierra Club all have strong positions on light pollution. Next slide. So I was doing a lot of research. I found there's a lot of different certifications. This is one that's new to me. I found it, and I found an interesting article from their website. So their stamp of approval is community-friendly lighting, and they're managed by Smart Outdoor Lighting Alliance. Next slide. So what is obtrusive light? Next slide. Glare. So glare occurs when poorly designed or installed lighting fixture directs a large percentage of the total light into your eyes instead of the intended target, like the road or the sidewalk. There is no excuse for glare, period. It is clear evidence of poor lighting design and often a byproduct of lighting by numbers or lighting on the cheap. When a lighting installation is only concerned with meeting a lighting standard that specifies the quantity and uniformity ratio of the lighting, the designer may choose to save costs by increasing the distance between fixtures. This in turn reduces the number of poles needed, substantially reducing overall cost. However, to do this, the designer may use fixtures that direct light at much higher angles Instead of improving visibility, this glare vastly degrades our ability to see, and in some cases can cause accidents by blinding a driver or pedestrian. And the source is right there. Next slide, please. So the glare, there's more glare than there should be. And I think that's self-evident here. Next slide. So it's important for everyone to know that the International Dark Sky Association just recently had a policy update on January 28th this year. And the correlated color temperature of lighting used in most outdoor applications should not exceed 2200 K. And for those that don't know, that's the measurement of the color. That's the 2200 Kelvin. So where light with a larger fractional emission of short wavelength is desired, or a more blue-rich light, it should be carefully controlled through stringent application of other lighting principles, such as a lower intensity, careful targeting, and reduced operation time. And there's the link for the source of this information. Next slide, please. Dave?
Yeah.
Next slide, please. So it's important to, this is a statement on the CCT, or correlated color temperature, and short wavelength blue light. This is from the Dark Sky Association. With the advent of the LED, International Dark Sky Association is concerned about the potential negative effects of blue-rich white light, even from fixtures with proper shielding. In 2010, IDA published a white paper outlining the potential hazards of blue-rich white light sources. Since then, the scientific evidence has solidified around its conclusions. The case against blue light is well-founded with regard to discomfort, glare, circadian rhythm disruption, light scattering, sky glow, and biological system disruption in wildlife. Outdoor lighting with blue light content is more likely to contribute to light pollution because it has a significantly larger geographic reach than lighting with less blue light. In natural settings, blue light at night has been shown to adversely affect wildlife behavior and reproduction. This is true even in cities which are often stopover points for migratory species. And there's your link to the source of this. Next slide, please.
I'm having some problems here. I went to full screen at Michelle's request, and it was causing some update problems. Hold on a second.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. So the Illuminating Engineering Society and the International Dark Sky Association unanimously joined forces to protect the night sky. They developed, on the following slide, the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting. Next slide, please. So 1, all light should have a clear purpose. 2, light should be directed only to where needed. 3, light should be no brighter than necessary. 4, light should be used only when it's useful. And 5, use warmer color lights where possible. And it's important to note, I can note that here in the Midcoast, we have the policy that our street lights are at 2200 K, very kind of an amber soft light color, or I should say warm color. Next slide, please. Whoop. Nope.
Did I go too far? Sorry. Hit the wrong key.
Okay. So safety. I think everybody knows it almost needs to be, not said, but we'll say it. everybody in the community wants to make sure that they have enough lighting to run a safe operation. There's no denying that. That's absolutely true. The question is, how much light is needed to be safe? The fire district has not really responded to this. Jill will later talk about some of the other fire stations that operate very safely with less light. But again, we absolutely want to have light that they need for next slide. So color rendition index, the measurement of how colors look under light sources when compared to sunlight. On Apple light, under the amber light, and it'll look different color under super white light.
Is anyone else having trouble hearing Dan? Or is that just me?
Yeah, I think it's Dave's typing.
I'm having
My
trouble
my
too.
apologies.
Okay, Dan, maybe start that sentence over.
Okay, so the color rendition index is the measurement of how colors look under a light source when compared to sunlight. We don't know what color they have, what temperature they have. I'm sorry, this is a different. It's been historically known that the cooler temperatures give a little bit better color rendition, score higher on the color rendition index. But it is new technology now. There are warmer color fixtures that are now available with a very high CIR rating of 70 and above. This is important to talk about right now because the justification that CAL FIRE gave us for not using a warmer color and matching the current street lights is to be able to distinguish fluid colors on their trucks. But again, there are now warm color fixtures with very high CRI values. They can also use spot flashlights, drive into the garage, or wait until the next day to detail the truck. There is no reason the lights need to be on all night long. Next slide. Jill, can you see your screen? We're at the "so what happened" portion. Did you want to take this, Jill?
Well, I muted. I muted Jill when we were having those issues earlier. I wasn't sure who it was, so let me ask her to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so so what happened? First of all, not just the color of the light and the intensity of the light, but the fact that there's multiple tall light poles that obstruct the view corridor is a core issue. And also that we have policies in place and regulations that about lighting, and those seem to be ignored. So we know that our LCP has policies about lighting. That's clear. And we know that during CEQA, residents commented on lighting, and they were concerned that it would be a significant change. We also know that the EIR took those comments into consideration, but the final EIR felt that the county would step in and ensure that that it was in conformance with all policies of the San Mateo County LCP. The county asked for the cut sheets from the fire district at least 3 times. We know that. We still don't know if they received cut sheets. So those are specifications for lighting. And we have never received them, although Dan and I have asked for them. And I know that At least 3 residents of El Granada have also asked Summer Burleson for them. So we haven't seen the cut sheets. We don't quite know the intensity of the lighting, but we know it's not amber. That's truth. And we also know that the county's post-installation design review was not in conformance with their own conditions or with the LCP policies. Next slide. Can you tell me what the next slide is?
Is this the new standard? Will other coastside fire stations adopt this bright lighting?
Okay.
Station 44 and
Okay. One of the reasons that I'm concerned, and others too, is I'm concerned that they are setting a new standard on the coast. This new lighting at the fire station 41 is completely different than the one in Moss Beach. Moss Beach Fire Station 44 has minimal lighting, and it doesn't have any lights in the view corridor. It also has a view corridor similar to ours. And the Half Moon Bay Fire Station number 40 also has minimal lighting and no lights, and it's surrounded by agriculture. So the Coastside Design Review Committee does not review commercial or government projects. This could be something we might want to work on in the future. Only the county approves these projects, and it seems like the county is falling down in regards to fire station lighting. And we also know CDRC has asked to purview these projects, commercial and government, and the county has not responded to that. Next slide.
why not model lights after Half Moon Bay?
Thanks, Dan. So Half Moon Bay has a beautiful fire station, and it has, it's over twice the size of El Granada's fire station. It's the headquarters, and it has this tall training facility. It has half the tall pole lights as El Granada, and those pole lights are spaced from 100 feet apart to 198 feet apart, and they have soft amber lighting. The walkway to the door is, the lighting is 4-foot bollards. They're decorative, and they also have amber lighting. And what I noticed right away was where the fire trucks exit from the engine bay has no lighting at all. This seems to be completely different than the lighting we have in El Granada, even though Half Moon Bay's station's bigger and there's more people using it. Next slide. Is there a next slide?
I have just a sample cut sheet. This is the second to last slide. I'll take this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thank you. So this is just as Jill said, we have not been able to see the cut sheets of the fixtures that are installed. I had high confidence that by looking hard enough, I would find them, but I was not able to. This is a very similar light fixture. The important thing on this slide is to see on the bottom right or the bottom left-hand side, that's the second label from the left, IDA, that's International Dark Sky Seal of Approval. And underneath it, I don't know if you could read it or not, but they only approve if it's the color temperature of the light, the LED light is 3000 K or warmer. So that's their policy. They did recently lower the number down to 2200 K. But I think that there's that's phased in. I'm not quite sure. I can't tell you for certain. If this number here now should be changed to 2200. I wish I could, but I just honestly I cannot. Although they did clearly take a position on that. And I think that's it. Next slide is questions.
Okay, thank you both for that presentation. That was really great. Do you want to then talk about the letter? I know it's a long letter. We probably don't need to read the whole letter, but I'd love for one of you guys to give a quick summary of what we're asking for in the letter.
I can do it. I
Okay,
can
Jill.
do it. Okay, so the reason we came up with another letter is the concerns keep coming in from residents, people writing emails, giving phone calls, even talking in person about it. And Dan had another meeting with the county, and our supervisor recommended that we take it up with the fire district. So this letter is going to not only Don Horsley and San Mateo County Planning, it's going to all the members of the Coastside Fire Protection District, and to Summer Burleson, who's the senior planner at the county, who was the one in charge of getting this project through all the permitting and approvals. So that's who it's going to. And the first paragraph's just an introduction, and it talks about the light poles obstructing the view corridor. It talks about our previous letter sent on January 27th and how the lighting didn't comply with various policies and regulations. After the letter went out, there was a mitigation proposal that was rushed through planning with no opportunity for the MCC or the public to review or comment, even though we asked for that. It talks about the adjustments made, which included dimming the existing 6 25-foot pole lights, dimming the 5 10-foot walkway pole lights, and lowering one by saw cutting. They saw cut one of the 25-foot pole lights and then lowered it so it's now hidden below the 17-foot retaining wall. But still, it's inadequate. We still have the remainder of those tall pole lights in the view corridor, and even the walkway lights are tall enough you can see them from the top.
Excuse me, Jill. Jill,
yeah.
you can't see, but there's a problem. They don't have the letter on the screen. The community cannot see the letter right now.
Can
Dave?
we put the letter up on the screen?
We can. It's been on the website. Nobody asked for the letter. Do you want me to put it up?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Hold on. I'll find it.
Sorry, Dave. Okay, let me know when it's up.
I'm working on it.
Well, I'll continue on the second page. The letter goes through government documents and the language with respect to exterior lighting. So the first document referenced is San Mateo County Planning's Department's conditions of approval. And it says all exterior lighting shall be designed and located so as to confine direct rays to the subject property and prevent glare in the surrounding area, and shall be rated dark sky compliant.
Jill, the letter's up, so you don't have to read it now.
Okay, so I'm on the second page, number 1. What's important about that planning is the manufacturer cut sheets were to be provided to the planning department. We do not know if they were ever provided to them, and we've never seen them. Number 2 is the zoning regulations. This area is El Granada Gateway District. So the El Granada District it's an area of low intensity development, and it should preserve the visual and open space characteristics of the property. Number 3 is the LCP, the Local Coastal Program, and it references section 8.18. You can read through that. And then 4 is the EIR. Now, there are more government documents, but I have to tell you, we were getting pretty tired working on this letter and also working. So we only ended at 4. And the next paragraph, I'm going to read it because I think it's very important. A major concern and point of frustration with the current lighting design is that this issue was explicitly identified as a potentially significant impact at the beginning of the process in 2015. As part of the CEQA required initial study checklist, the issue is carefully tracked and addressed continually throughout the entire process, resulting in the strong language identified in the conditions of approval. Nonetheless, it was not implemented. The next part goes into safety. The fire district is using safety as a reason not to change the lighting and a reason why they put in such excessive lighting. We looked into that and even contacted the president of IES, that's Illuminated Engineering Society, the San Francisco chapter, and he had no knowledge of standards for fire station lighting. We did find a IESNA lighting handbook. It's over 1,000 pages. If you click on that link, you can go to an online library and look at it yourself. There's nothing about fire station lighting, but there's lighting similar that for high security detainment centers. The next paragraph talks about color temperature, and then there's a conclusion. The lighting plan never had a formal design review. The fire district installed what they wanted prior to approval by the county. This is not in the spirit of the project permitting system or the CEQA process, which identified this issue at the beginning of the process in 2015. It repeats in the CEQA required initial study checklist. We are asking that everyone work together to find a solution that satisfies the requirements of the conditions of approval, the zoning regulations, the LCP, and the EIR. Dan, do you have anything to add?
No, you did a great job, Jill. Thank you. I may, I found some new information just yesterday, and would like to make an amendment to a part of it, just to add it in. I could say it now. Why don't we first hear from maybe the community?
Well, first we're going to go around to the council for any clarifying questions. No comments or statements, just the clarifying questions. Does anyone on the council have questions? Okay, Greg?
Jill and Dan, did you see the letter from Chris Johnson? Email from Chris Johnson asking for more specific remediation to be listed. And I wondered what you thought of that.
I did see it. I myself did want to ask for lowering of all the tall poles because it's such an easy fix. I mean, you just take a Sawzall and you saw them off, and you take the fixture off, you saw it off, you put the fixture back on. It's pretty easy. I watched them do the one pole. It took them a half day of work to do that one pole and put in the dimming system. I understand they said it cost $50,000, which I find hard to believe, but I think cutting those poles down would be a huge improvement. Dan?
Yeah, this is a bit of a delicate situation. I think it may be, I'm not certain that it's the right way to go is to suggest what they should do to fix their problem. We really need to work together. We need to set a meeting up, and we just need to be honest. But I think, overall, the glare, the color, part of the problem is these walkway lights, they're so high that, no matter where you stand, the angle of light hits you in the eye, and that's problematic, very much for myself. So, there's a number of different ways to solve this problem, but I think that it should be done right and done to the satisfaction of the MCC and the community. So I'm a little hesitant I have some ideas, but yeah, 4-foot bollards around that, just basically following the night sky and the IES 5 principles for responsible lighting. Put the light where it's needed and not, broadcasting everywhere else. When you're, coming and let's say you're turning on Obispo from Coronado going up to the post office and the fire station will be on your right. There's essentially just a wall of light there. You can't see through it. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be so obtrusive. It doesn't have to be so dominant feeling. It doesn't have to be a Walmart parking lot. So I think that there are some good, I'm sure the engineers, designers can, come up with a better plan. They haven't really, other than just general safety, they haven't really told us, they have lights on their trucks. Yeah, it's a complex solution. So I think it's better that it's not really dictated from us. We work it through together.
Okay, does that answer your question, Greg? Greg?
I guess I'm not allowed to do hand signals. Yeah. I
Oh,
just
sorry, I
wanted to
didn't
be
see it.
sure that I wanted to be sure they had considered whether they wanted to get more specific so that they didn't get stuck with another inadequate solution. But okay, I get what Dan's saying.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, I wanted to be more specific, but Dan did not, and we couldn't agree. So we agreed to not do anything about that.
Okay, something to consider as a council. If we do want to add some more specifics. When we go around to the council, everyone can indicate whether they would like that or not. Next, let's go to Claire for her question.
Just a quick question. This obviously has a history to it that people on the council have been talking with people on the fire district and with the county. Is there anything we should know before we consider this about the state of the conversation and the history of your talking with them?
Like what? I'm not certain what. Not certain.
I guess I'm not sure entirely who you've talked to and said what, but beyond that, I'm just wondering if there are any snags that may have developed or things that people are waiting for us to give them information about that would go into our consideration of this letter.
Well, I could say our
No,
No? Okay. Thank you.
I agree.
actually, they would be happy if we would just shut up and go away.
Okay, thank you. Len Erickson has a question or comment.
Yes, actually, I'm echoing a question put forward by a member of the public, asking the question of whether anyone asked planning or more particularly the fire district to attend this meeting. Generally, when we contest permitting issues, we make sure that the object of the item is can at least be invited to the meeting. So was anyone from the district invited, fire district?
I don't know that they were. We did have a meeting. Myself, 4 other community members, Supervisor Horsley, the president of the board, fire district, Gary Burke, Jonathan Cox, Chris Hunter, and a number of other county people were at this meeting. We gave pretty much a similar presentation, not with as much LCP and regulation information. Wasn't as complete as we have here. Their response was, all we want to do is dim it. Actually, there was a little concern about the community's concerned about the safety of the firefighters. And I felt that that was a little bit fabricated as a way to really avoid the issues that were presented to them regarding all of the concerns through all the broad agencies, IDA, Sierra Club, the Audubon Society, American Medical Association. They just didn't want to address that. They did not. They did not address that. They just talked about safety, and they said, we're going to dim them, and that's all we're going to do.
My point, and I guess I'll address it then to Michelle, is I think just as a matter of formal courtesy that they should have been invited to this meeting.
You know, Len, I wasn't aware that Dan and I were supposed to do that. I wasn't aware of the chain of command. So I apologize for not notifying the fire district, but I wasn't aware that I should have done that.
We could invite them back. You know, I think that this point in time is really time for the community to really catch up, and council to catch up. You know, it's possible that it might have been more efficient. It would have taken probably longer for the agenda item to go on. I don't know. Maybe we made a mistake. I'm not sure. We can always invite them back next. You know, they've been rushing things through. The county's been rushing through, not giving us much time. So
I believe we've seen from other meetings that where there's a large community reaction, holding a meeting in which they can be present, virtual or real, it's an effective opportunity for the public.
Well, thank you for that, Lynn. It's a good point, a fair point, and we can consider doing that for next time. We didn't this time, unfortunately. Next, let's go to Claire.
I just want to say that the description of the meeting you just gave, Dan, about all the different people that met and what the content of the meeting was and the bad feelings apparently that came away from it, that's what I was asking about. So I'm glad you're able to let us know a little bit about that. That's what I was asking. So thank you.
well, it wasn't really bad feelings. It was just, I mean, we weren't satisfied. If you want to call that bad feelings, I guess you could.
I guess unsettled would be a better word.
Okay.
Yes, and Claire, I asked for a meeting with Don Horsley, and I was not given that meeting. He told me to address it with the fire district.
Okay. Next, I don't see any other council members' hands raised for clarifying questions. So next, let's go to the members of the public. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to speak. And Catherine Slater Carter was the first to raise her hand. So we'll start with you, Catherine.
Muted, unmuted. Now the video's there. Woohoo. I want to thank all the members of the council and the community for your hard work on this. Jill and Dan, you've put together, I think, a good letter, and by not putting specifics in, you have left open the opportunity to work with the fire district. Specifics are nice, but sometimes if you get too into specifics, people start haggling over the specifics instead of what your real concept is, and I think you stated that very clearly here. To Dave's comment, I see this as about a letter, not about any other issue. And I think it's, or to Len's comment rather, I think it's more appropriate to invite the fire district after they've received the letter so they can comment to the council about that in person and also to the public. This firehouse was, oh, and the other masterful touch in this, thank you, was to put in the conditions at both the old station in Moss Beach and at the contemporary new station in Half Moon Bay. It's a sharp contrast to what their statement about safety is. I am a little worried that they will put all those lights up now, both in Half Moon Bay and in Moss Beach, just to prove their point. Hopefully not. I would also like to see your work translated into commercial and other standards for the community. I think lighting is a huge importance. And the fact that you went so far as to put CRI in, that's something I've been working with on my own houses for a long time, but I find very few people understand that. So you've gotten some good detailed information. I just think the fire district was facing a lot of opposition when they wanted to put that station in. And they said they wanted to work with the community, and now they have reneged on that deal. And I'm deeply disappointed. I thought that, and I would suggest that instead of just dealing with the fire chief, I realize you did talk to the president of the fire board, but I'm more than willing to contact other fire board members and say, hey guys, what's going on? You guys are getting stood up by your own staff in your efforts to work closely with the community, and lighting is an important deal. There's just been a long discussion on next door about the lighting at one of the nurseries in Half Moon Bay. But that one is grandfathered in, and it's in Half Moon Bay. Most of the comments were that the lighting should be dimmed and there should be efforts taken to keep the lighting confined to the space. That's an old business. You are doing absolutely the right thing in pushing this, and I will stand behind you and write letters if necessary, and use my name if you want to, because lighting is a huge issue and it's very important, as you can see from the next door commentary, to the people on the
Thank you,
coast side.
Catherine.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, your 3 minutes are up. Next, we'll go to Lisa Ketchup.
I thank you. I suggest that the Deputy Chief, Jonathan Cox, be included in your letter distribution. I appreciate this time that you've included the 4 remaining board members, but he should be included as well, I think. And consider attaching your slides, which specify and illustrate the more acceptable lighting at the other coastside stations, so it is clearly understood what result you're seeking. At the January 27 Coastside Fire Board meeting, Deputy Chief Cox mentioned Station 41 lighting complaints from neighbors and looking at dimmers as the solution. Director McKimmey asked how many neighbors and made a joke, and that was it. It was over in 2 minutes. The January 27 MCC letter was never mentioned at a fire board meeting. Neither was my January 29 email on the subject, which was copied to all fire board directors and included specific suggestions to address the lighting. Simply taking the flag in at night would eliminate the need to uplight the flagpole. Pathway lighting could be 4 feet high bollards, similar to proposed lighting for the parallel trail, which was discussed at length, and the community's desire was heard. Certain task lighting could be manually operated instead of always on. I'm not saying that, that you should say these have to be done, but make these concrete suggestions. I think it's very helpful. I'd like to point out the irony of appealing to county government over the hill to force our local fire district to bring their lighting into compliance when the Coastside Fire Protection District is an actual example of local control with an elected board of directors who all live in the Midcoast. I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Those are great points.
Bill, I have a community member that asked me to read their comment. It's very short, it's a couple sentences.
Okay.
Okay, so hi Dan, I support the letter you have drafted. It is important to continue to find a solution that is mutually beneficial for El Granada residents and the fire station. I believe the conversation should continue. Feel free to read my response. Kimberly Hines, resident of El Granada.
Okay, thank you for that. I believe Dave also has a letter or a summary of a phone call he had with a member of the public comment.
Yes, I'm trying to go off mute here. Oh yeah, I think I'm off mute now. So yes, Matthew Clark, who is a member of GCSD, was calling as an individual, was the first person who reported these issues to us quite a few months ago. And he called me today and he said the letter was very good and he thought we should send it as it stands. So he complimented the council on the letter.
Great, thank you, Dave. Next, we'll go to Chris Johnson. Chris, go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes.
You're
You're
muted.
still muted, Chris.
Now?
There you go.
Thanks, Michelle. I want to say that I also support this letter. I think it's definitely a high quality letter. And I appreciate the tone, the diplomatic tone, given the fact that the first letter, wasn't really paid attention to. And I appreciate the discussion that Jill and Dan had with regard to whether specific suggestions or recommendations should be put into this letter. And I understand the thinking around that. Personally, though, I would agree with Lisa Ketchum, which is the first letter had some of these specific examples. I believe they weren't really listened to. And now we're sending a second, or the MCC sending a second letter. I don't think it hurts to provide those specific examples because the letter is a launching point. It's not saying this is only and exactly what will happen. So putting specific examples in there, I don't think limits what could happen in the future. And I think it also, once again, puts in the record that there are other solutions besides dimmer and cutting one pole down. So I definitely support this letter. I think that the MCC has really been impressive on this topic, and as a member of the community, I'm proud that the MCC is working for the community on this. And I guess my last comment would be, I guess I'm kind of disappointed in Coastside Fire Protection District and a little bit in county planning as well, as it's been well documented by Jill and Dan and the letters from the MCC and Lisa Ketchum as well, that several stages in the process were either intentionally or accidentally skipped over. Still to this day, I think I heard the MCC hasn't seen any cut sheets on these lighting fixtures. So I don't know that Summer Burleson has seen them either, which then how can they be approved? So thank you, MCC. I definitely support this letter and I appreciate the work of the MCC on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we'll go to Kimberly Williams.
Hi, I just want to add another voice to say that I agree with what Chris just said. Thank you to Jill and Dan for drafting the letter and spending the time on this issue. It's very important. And I fully support the actions that you're taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Next, we'll go to Dolores Silva. Dolores, you're on mute. Go ahead. There you go.
Hi, yes, thank you very much, Jill and Dan. I think this is a step that needs to be taken. I appreciate the efforts, and I know this is tough, and it seems like the county sometimes has their hands too full or whatever it is, but I think we need to stand up for what makes sense for the coast. And we fully support this letter. I think Midcoast Eco is strongly behind these efforts. And thank you for writing it.
Okay, thank you, Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else want to speak on this topic?
Yes, I'd like to say
members of the public. Let's go to members of the public before we go back to the council. If any other hands, I don't see any other hands raised, so we're going to close public comment now. And so we'll go back to the council. Dan, go ahead.
I just want to say very quickly that, you know, some of the members know that there's a kind of a parallel kind of discussion on next door right now regarding the greenhouses. What it does is, you know, there's 226 comments, there's 54 neighbors involved, and of those 54, 50 of them have a heart or agree to the idea, just to the concern of light pollution in general. They're all favoring having a conversation. So what that shows is that the community in whole is concerned and wants to, you know, do what we can to minimize light pollution. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thanks, Dan, for that. Next, I'd like to go around to other members of the council just to state your opinions or comments on this topic, whether you're in support of the letter, you'd like to make any amendments to the letter and such. So I'll just go around in order of who I have listed on the agenda. So we'll start with Claire.
I have no comment. I generally support the letter.
Okay, thanks, Claire. Next, Dave.
I generally support the letter. I also think it needs more specific mitigation measures. And I have quite a few amendments to the letter, which I can share, but I'd rather not do it until everybody else has gone around.
Okay, we can come back to you on that then.
And also, I'm going to shut down this screen. It seems to be hung, and I'm going to come back on again in a minute, but I'm on the other screen. Keep going.
Sounds good. Let's go to Len next.
I support the letter. It's very good in quality and detail. Following up Dan's concerns, I would like to see an introduction that, despite the past history here, would open on a positive note and look for, you know, how to come together, including having them come to the next meeting after we deliver it to them, as Catherine suggested. I'll wait to see what Dave's amendments are before I see if I want to make something specific.
Okay, thank you. Greg Dieguez next.
I strongly support a letter. I think this letter is fine, but I'm willing to entertain amendments based on what people have to say. My concern is that we get a letter out tonight. And I agree in general with the process that has been discussed here. I'm okay with leaving the specifics for a subsequent meeting where, to Len's point, we invite Coastside County Fire District to come and speak to the alternatives. And at that time, we could also present our thoughts on alternatives. But my key criterion for this letter is that it be approved tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead. I tend to agree. I'm in support of the letter, and I would like to get a letter approved tonight. So hopefully the number of amendments will not keep that from happening. I don't know if Jill or Dan wanted to say anything else, or should we go back to Dave for his amendments?
I would. Sorry, go Dan.
You know, there's some information that I just learned yesterday, and I think that it's important. I can just say that I'll read it out. I'd like to add to the second bullet point of the Blue Ridge white lights, second bullet point, the first page. Add to the end of the second bullet point to read: a typical lighting manufacturer only approves IDA dark sky lighting at 3000 K or lower, based on that symbol that I showed everyone. And then IDA just recently changed their position to 2200K. And there are warm color light fixtures now available with high CRI values. Those three things I'd like to change. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and put that in the chat.
Okay, are you going to make a motion right now then to change that?
I guess to speed things up, might as well. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay. I think it might be best if you put it in the chat. I can go ahead. I have the latest version of the letter, so I can go ahead and share that on my screen. And then I can update that with your amendments. If you put them in the chat, I may need to go back to you on exactly where those go. So do you want to take a moment to put those in the chat? Do you have it handy right now, Dan?
I think it's in there now.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull this up and share my screen then. Can you guys see that? Sorry, can you guys see the screen share?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so just a sec. All right, complication in that I cannot see the chat. There it is. Okay. Is that the only change, Dan?
Yes, I believe it is. We already covered addressing it to Jonathan Cox, and
We haven't had a motion to do that. Do you
well,
want to include that in your motion?
no. I think that I don't think that needs a motion. So yes, this is the only. This is my motion to add this language where you have it sitting right now.
Is his role board director or no? What's
He's one of the deputy chiefs.
We addressed the January 27th letter to him.
Yeah. Does anybody remember if he's a deputy chief or an assistant chief?
He's a deputy chief.
Thank you.
okay?
It's with Cal Fire, or I don't think he's.
That's correct. He's actually Cal Fire.
Yeah, he's deputy chief of the Coastside Fire, well, whatever.
Is it? I'll confirm
Yeah.
if it's Coastside Fire Protection or Cal Fire. Dave, do we need a motion to change that part of the letter?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
We've corrected addresses before.
Got it. Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the table to make this change to the letter. Let's just take a vote on that right now.
All right. Len,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well, so it's unanimous.
Okay. And let's go to you, Dave, next for your amendment.
Michelle, I have an amendment. Jill.
Oh, yeah. Let's take the simple ones first.
Okay.
Okay, mine's simple. I make a motion, we attach the slides as Lisa Ketchum recommended.
How about instead of attaching them, we just link to them somewhere in the letter?
I think it's more powerful if they're attached.
I'd rather have them attached. Nobody clicks
Okay.
on the link.
Attached, in that is, as you just add them to the end of the document.
Yeah, like PDF.
It's a single document.
Just
Okay, so you want one PDF of like all
Yes.
18 slides and this?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Just
We
FYI,
can-
there was a typo, and I found a typo. I don't know if just let it go, but anyway,
Where is it? Just tell us, we'll fix it.
Not on this letter, on the slides.
Oh, you can fix that before you send it to me.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll
so
second
there's a
Jill's
motion, motion and a second to attach the slides. Let's take a vote on that.
All right. Len,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dave, I vote yes. That's 7-0.
Okay. Let's go to Dave's motion, amendments next.
Okay, so I'm just gonna share what I've got. It's marked up. And some of it I'm gonna hover over it as I share. Hopefully this will all work. Right. So I would strongly suggest changing residents of the 5 towns to the Mid-Coast. There aren't any actual towns here by any normal standards.
I'm fine with that.
And this next highlighted one, the MCC addressed this issue at the January meeting, move it to the start of the sentence. So it would then read, the MCC addressed this issue at its January 27th meeting in response to community concerns, da, 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 da. It reads much more clearly that way to me.
Okay.
And that, of course, changes voting to voted. I'm suggesting that we drop this strikeout phrase. It sort of gets people on edge when they see things like that.
What's the
And
strikeout phrase?
unnecessarily rushed through and approved by planning. So it just changes to approved by planning.
Striking.
No opportunity for the MCC for the public to review.
I don't really like that change.
Well,
This is
we
Jill.
can vote on it. If there's anything that's controversial, we can vote on. I'm going to run through them all
Can I
first.
just, Dave, I'm keeping track of these because you don't have the actual changes here that I can see. With
Well,
the second one, the MC addressed this issue.
Oh, that's
you're
interesting. The
talking-
changes, I do have the changes, but they don't seem to show up in, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's fine. I'm keeping up, except for I just had a question on the second one. The MCC addressed this issue. You're talking about just starting a new sentence with that,
No,
or
no.
moving that?
Move that highlighted thing to the beginning of the sentence. So the sentence
So before in
then
response,
changes to
or-
darkened night skies and voted unanimously. Okay.
Well, that sentence starts with in response to community concerns.
Right, so what I'm suggesting we change it to is read, the MCC addressed this issue at its January 27th meeting in response to community concerns.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so there's several places where it talks about proposed adjustments, but they aren't proposed adjustments, they're approved by planning. So they should just say approved adjustments.
I think that information was taken directly from Summer's letter.
Right, but
That's
now,
correct.
wait, but that original letter is now obsolete. They've been approved, correct?
Well, we never saw anything that said they were approved.
Okay.
We
I
just saw them
I
installed.
thought we had heard that they had approved it. In fact, you refer to that in several other places.
Yeah, I think we got something about that.
I don't feel super strongly about it. It just was confusing.
Mhm. Can we leave those out then? Those changes that proposed?
How did Joe and Dan feel about that?
Well, we don't know where they're at. You know, they haven't really been giving us clear information. So in my heart, everything's still proposed.
All
I
right.
mean, the lights are
I'll withdraw that request then.
Thank you.
So under this next one, 3C, you're citing the LCP, require that all non-agricultural development minimize noise and light. I strongly suggest we drop that. That's talking about during development, not after the fact. In other words, during construction.
I understand. Okay. Well, that's a little bit unclear.
If you look at the way these things are approved at the planning department, it's very clear that it's a construction type thing. It's not an after the fact. It's not the development process. It's the actual development. Anyway, I don't feel super strongly.
You okay with that? Jill?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so now you've got an entire paragraph that reads, just before the conclusion, you've got an entire paragraph that reads, in planning's March 30th, 2021 notification letter, blah, 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 and it cites the letter, and then nothing. I don't understand why that paragraph is there. And if there's there for a reason, something's missing.
I think something was edited out, and I think that
Dave, can you read the part again where you are at? Because I can't
Sure.
see it.
I'll read the
Read it
entire
again.
paragraph. This follows, this is the last paragraph in regarding safety, the last paragraph before conclusion. It reads, in planning's March 30th, 2021 notification letter, it also states that the color temperature of the lights was selected based on the need and ability to accurately distinguish colors on materials such as blood or other fluids. Fire station number 41 installed 2 high intensity exterior LED floodlights on the energy bay for such inspections. But it doesn't seem to serve any purpose in this letter as it stands.
Well, it shows they have already installed 2 lights they can use to do the inspections for blood or other fluids. They're right outside the engine bay. They're super bright, high intensity, and they can turn them on and off to inspect the fire engines. Is that what you're confused about?
The paragraph, so why is it in here? What is it trying to say? Why are we saying it?
So disputing that they need the lighting to distinguish. They're saying they need 6 tall pole lights, 5 tall walkway lights, all the sconces and everything else in order to distinguish fluids on the engines. That's why it's there.
When they're on the driveway, not when you're in the bay.
they're specific.
Correct.
I think they're specifically talking about, this is their reason why they do not want to match the existing streetlights, the warmer colors. They have to have the blue rich white light to distinguish fluid on their trucks.
Right, but again, it's just there. We're not replying to it. We're not saying it's wrong. We're not saying it's good, bad, indifferent. So I still don't understand why the paragraph is here.
To bring attention to this concern. I agree, it may not the paragraph may not be,
What if we insert however before fire station?
So you're
We
saying,
can,
just
but
to clarify,
remember that the fire department is saying they need something so they can see fluids on the engines when they are in the driveway, not when they're in the engine bay. So I don't understand how this is relevant to the rest of the letter.
Those lights are exterior lights. They're
But they
exterior
don't, but they don't
floodlights.
shine on the whole engine. They can't, not when it's in the driveway.
say that again.
Anyway, I'm beating this to death, but
let me ask you, can I just ask a clarifying question? Because I'm confused now too. I think Dave brings up a good point, but I just want to hear from Jill and Dan what the intention was. So the 2 high density exterior LEDs that you're talking about on the engine bay, maybe that should say, I mean, Jill just said right outside the engine bay. Are those the lights that you're saying that we're okay with those? Those are sufficient, those should be sufficient rather than this other lighting being necessary? Or are you saying
Correct.
we dispute? Okay. I think that's just not clear.
Correct.
Well,
When we, our original letter on January 27th, those floodlights were on all night long. And then we wrote the January 27th letter and they turned them off and they have not turned them on again. But they're still there and they can use them to inspect the engine.
okay.
they can also use spot flashlights. I gotta say that I'm not,
I'm not disputing that. I agree with you, Dan and Jill. I'm just saying this paragraph doesn't say any of that.
I think Jill's solution of saying, however, fire station 41 installed actually solves the problem.
Okay, I don't think it addresses what the fire department is claiming. So I don't think that's helpful, but I'll shut up. So under conclusion, it says fire station never had a formal design review, referring to the lighting. And I'm suggesting we change that, did not have a public design review. There was a formal design review, it was done by planning.
Well, it wasn't completely done because they never had any cut sheets.
We
So
don't know that.
Okay, go on to your next one.
And the next one says the fire district installed what they wanted prior to approval by the county. And I'm suggesting that we change that to fire district installed lighting that was not compliant with their design goals, their plans, and not compliant with the zoning ordinance. No variance was requested. And it's, Michelle, that's down at the
fine.
bottom right.
I can't see it. Could you put that in the chat so I can merge it with mine?
Oh, sorry. Let me do one thing here. You still can't see it, can you?
It'd just be easier if you paste it so I could copy it.
I will.
Okay. I think I've got everything, but I'll run through it once and then we will vote. Does anyone want to comment on any of these? Any other members of the council first? Okay. I'll share my screen again. So then we have one document that has everything. Dave, the fire district installed lighting that was, so instead of what they wanted prior to approval, we replace that with lighting.
Yeah, remove the strikeout and replace it with this.
Okay. So we will, so Dave, you made a motion, make a motion and then we'll see if we have a second.
Right, so I move that we add all these amendments other than my editorial comment about the last paragraph before conclusion.
Okay, so we have residents of the Midcoast, including El Granada. The MC, we just reordered this sentence. We took, sorry, some of it didn't, is over here. We took out section 3B.
I thought it was 3C, and I'm wrong.
It was 3C. It's confusing because,
I don't see a B.
yeah, there was no B.
Okay,
We skipped.
Okay, good. Then we got the right thing.
okay. And then I put in however,
Good.
and then did not have a public design review, and that got an extra period, but okay. I will second Dave's amendments. Let's take a vote.
Okay. Did anybody want to discuss further before we vote? I'm not hearing anything, so I'll call the roll. The motion is to approve a significant number of amendments as we've displayed them on the screen tonight. Len,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
I think Jill's still on mute. *6, Jill.
skip Jill for a moment. Dan,
Yes.
Dave.
Yes from
yes,
Jill.
And yes from Jill, so it's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Does anyone have any other amendments or comments on the letter before we go ahead and vote on the letter? Okay, I don't see anything. Jill, you still have your hand raised, but I'll just lower that.
Sorry, I don't know how to turn it off.
It's okay, I got it. Next, let's vote on the letter as amended. Dave, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Do we need to call to see if anybody has any comments on the overall letter, or are we done with that?
We already went through that. If anyone does have any comments, they can speak up now.
Okay. Then I will call the roll again. Len,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dave. Yes. Passes unanimously as amended.
Okay. Great. So Dan, please send me the updated presentation with the typo fixed, and I will go ahead and attach that and send this letter out tomorrow
Okay.
as amended. Okay, great. Next, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is the letter that Greg, Claire, and I worked on permitting for eucalyptus removal. I wasn't sure, Greg or Claire, who was going to present this. Claire, did you want to take it, or should we have Greg do it?
Claire's muted.
Mute myself. I think Greg is going to make some introductory remarks, and then I'll explain the letter. And I think that's what we're doing, right, Greg?
Well, all right, quickly.
You don't need to. I can do it if you want.
Well, I'm just going to say that I'm a little more agitated about the slow nature of the permitting process and the fact that they've known about this for months. So Claire, having greater social intelligence, has written a letter that is perhaps a little more palatable to the group. I would have said one of those letters with strongly worded letter to follow. I don't get the why it takes so long, and I'm really anxious to see this ridiculous barrier to removing an invasive flammable species removed completely from the homeowners and property owners in the Midcoast. End of story.
Okay. So we've talked last time we met, we identified a couple of things that we thought were, quote, low-hanging fruit in regard to eucalyptus control. And one of the things that we identified that we thought we could possibly push through without too much trouble was the making permits to remove eucalyptus from private property free and fast. So our letter is basically to urge the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Department to completely revise their method of allowing residents to remove eucalyptus trees from their property. The letter is really short. I believe in really short letters because I think they get read quicker or more thoroughly. Basically, what we're saying here is that the county has made eucalyptus removal more difficult than any of our neighboring jurisdictions, including Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, and Woodside. The county estimates that it will take about 1 to 2 months to get a permit to remove a eucalyptus tree, but in our recent experiences, it has taken much longer than that. 1 to 2 months is excessive to begin with, given the emergency. And also the cost of removing eucalyptus can be costly. Even if we don't include the fees from the county, it still costs a lot of money. So what we're asking is that the permits for the removal of eucalyptus should be free to individual property owners and should be issued within 72 hours of application. Approved measures should be taken to ensure that regrowth does not occur. We're not describing what those methods are, but something should be done to make sure the trees just don't come back. And we're also asking them to waive the requirement that the trees be replaced with comparable trees. We are suggesting that some replacement of vegetation should be made in order to reduce the possibility that everything becomes hardscape, but we're not requiring it to be trees and not requiring it to be anything, and requiring it to be fire resistant. As an aside, the county's been working on their tree policy for years, and we urge that they complete it, but we also urge that they not wait to complete it and that they make these changes of making the permits free and fast, make those changes immediately. So that's what we're asking. I think it reflects a beginning of what the community is asking for.
Yep. I'll just share this. We won't go through the letter in detail because it's been up on the website for a couple of days now, but I'll just put it up on the screen as we go through this. I'm going to first go around to other members of the council for clarifying questions. We'll start with Len, who has his hand raised.
Yes, at the Fire Safe, San Mateo County Fire Safe meeting, which is a monthly meeting I attended, this topic area came up, and it's another dimension of it, which I'm somewhat aware of, but not all the details. I think one of the major issues here has to do with the coastal development permit required here. And RCD spoke to a continuing effort they have to streamline or change that process, so that you have not only the county permit, but the CDP required as well. I don't know enough to suggest a change here, but we should be aware of that.
I don't know if there is a CDP requirement.
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, there absolutely is.
I'm not sure there is. That maybe that applied to the group of 31 trees that were being taken down at once.
No, Claire.
Would you like me to help clarify this?
Absolutely.
Do I have permission from the chair?
Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, so the county has a significant tree ordinance which requires a permit for removal. That is entirely separate from a coastal development permit. As you know, the county tree ordinance update was stalled. The draft, as it was left at the point it was left off, had a proposed an over-the-counter same-day significant tree removal permit for certain undesirable tree species, such as blue gum eucalyptus. That would be limited to 3 trees per year. So and 10 trees over 5 years. The limitation relates to the LCP requirement for a coastal development permit for removing a grove of trees. So apparently more than 3 trees is a grove. Anyway, so the recent Planning Commission hearing for the 31 Ukes on 4 properties on El Granada Boulevard, a county tree removal permit was not required for that project, even though the tree ordinance has not been finalized, because the fire people came in and said, this is a high fire hazard zone and you don't need that permit. So clearly, if you have any kind of eucalyptus trees within 100 feet from your house, you're not going to need, with the fire people on your side, you're not going to need a county tree removal permit. The requirement for and the county has control over whether they enforce this or whether they change it quickly or whatever they do. But the requirement for a coastal development permit for a grove of trees cannot be so easily dealt with. And the county coastal commission you just can't get there in a direct short route. And this is what RCD has been working on. The approach is they have a draft public works plan. See, where did I have this in my notes? That it's been released for public review, and that will be the goal of that is to streamline the coastal development permit process, that you would do this once for all similar type projects, and then from then on it would be streamlined. So the county is working on that. RCD has a draft out already. Have I clarified it, or did I skip something? Does it make any more sense now?
That provides the details of what I referred to and puts it in good context. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
I think, Lisa, to your point, and I can't find it either, they've already scheduled a review meeting to go before the Coastal Commission and remove the coastal development permit requirement for eucalyptus. Am I understanding that correct?
I haven't heard that. It's not that simple. I'm skeptical of what you just said.
Lisa, do you think that this letter is worth pursuing just for the sake of people that want to cut down fewer than three eucalyptuses?
So the email I sent you this afternoon, which quoted from the Coastside Fire Protection District Action Plan that their committee produced last month, said, it's in the email I sent to you. Said what they are going to do is to write a letter to the Board of Supervisors in support of the efforts that they are doing to streamline removal of eucalyptus. And so I think that that's more what I would consider the appropriate move. The county understands this issue and they're doing whatever they can. And on both levels, from the CDP angle and the other, and it's just not that simple to this is in the Coastal Act, the LCP, you just can't. So I think the approach that they're taking with the master plan, the Public Works master plan, will be the way this goes. And I think for the MCC to chime in and support would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Go ahead, Claire.
So if I wanted to cut down, if I lived in El Granada and wanted to cut down a eucalyptus tree in my yard tomorrow, would this letter help me in any way?
I would call the fire marshal and say, can you give me a note to take to my teacher to say I can take this tree down, because they're going to help you.
Okay. Thank you.
You could also call county planning and say, what is the process here? Do I need to get specific permission from fire or what, during this?
The permit is still required. Currently, a significant tree permit is required, right?
Not if the fire department
Not if
says.
the fire marshal says
Not if.
they support it, right?
So
what's the?
Lisa, we should redo this whole thing.
Pardon?
it sounds as though we might need to redo this entire thing.
Well, I think, if you want to go into the details of your letter, I could start suggesting corrections, but I don't really think it's important. I mean, like, let's see, page 2, permits for the removal of eucalyptus should be free to individuals. Well, I mean, if you don't need the permits, certainly it's free. And I think a certain amount of oversight is needed, and that they need to make sure you're not causing erosion and not hitting anybody's house. I mean, you can't just say, okay, go at it. But whether they charge a fee for that, I don't know. Just ask planning before you go ahead with this, with any assumptions. And then it says, your letter says here, every effort should be made to replace trees with natural and fire. What is a natural tree? I mean, all trees are natural. The county will be proposing native trees. They may come out with a more specific list. I mean, there's no need to say any of that. The county already knows what needs to be done.
Okay.
Director Monowitz said today that CAL FIRE is going to be working with the planning department on the update for this issue in the county tree ordinance. I think just a letter in support, more in a polite tone, as what was suggested by the fire department, what they wanted to do. And then if you have any questions about, in this interim period of time before this all gets sorted out, what you want to do about the tree in your yard or whatever it is, because I don't see it as an impediment now. The county is doing everything they can to get the permitting more streamlined.
Let me ask you this, Lisa, because I went to the county website, and none of the information that you're saying is there on the site. Like, it talks about, here's the process, apply for this permit, here's how long it's going to take. It said 1 to 2 months. So if a property owner wants to go and do this, you're saying at the point in which they fill out the forms and give it to planning's going to say, oh, actually, you don't really need this. You just need a letter from the fire district.
Well, I don't know what they need, but we saw what happened with the 31 eucalyptus that were approved for removal. They did not need tree removal permits. It was right there in the staff report. It was just a coastal development permit. Well,
that's true, but it took them 8 months to get a hearing. So, I mean, I think the idea of expressing concern about the time and cost is merited.
Okay, this was also in the staff report. It said, okay, RCD had done this whole, all the biological studies, everything that was needed, and said this will serve the next time. The documents already been created, the studies have been done. And I would say, just as Danny did, get a hold of RCD, get a hold of the fire department, and get the thing rolling. The template has been created by the project that happened last month or the month before. I think that it's just mean-spirited to say that, oh, it took 8 months. Well, okay, they're starting from scratch. And, a coastal development permit for 31 eucalyptus, this is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, you've got CEQA, well, it was exempt from CEQA, but I mean, and okay, so it is cumbersome and detailed, and it's important that it is that way to protect the Coastal Act. And they understand that they need a more streamlined permitting process, and that is what RCD has produced. I hope you can study that and comment on it, or attend their meeting and everything. That's their. In general, I just had a couple other comments. When you're writing a letter, I understand that sometimes it's hard to figure out who to send it to, how you will you know. And I just wanted to point out that the San Mateo County Planning Department, as a recipient of any mail, don't do that. Basically, that's if you don't know anybody in the whole department, in the planning, you don't know anybody there. And you're going to send, and somebody's going to field that and send it to somebody who might handle it, you know, but you know the people involved. And in this case, it's well, Monowitz, he's in charge of the long range plan. He's in charge of the whole thing. So, I mean, you know, if you can't think of any better ideas, send it to Monowitz and he'll route it to the appropriate person.
It's
You know,
addressed to Monowitz.
yeah, but then what is the next thing? It says San Mateo County Planning Department. Just take that off. That's meaningless. You know, and okay, you copy the board, the planning commission, that's just informational because, you know, obviously planning commission doesn't take any actions unless it's put before us on an agenda by staff.
Okay, I think let's go around. I think we have a few other people who want to speak. But before we do that, do any other members of the council have any clarifying questions? Okay, let's let Catherine speak. She's had her hand raised for a while. And then we can go back to you, Lisa, if you have additional comments. Catherine?
Thank you. I sympathize and support the letter from Greg and Claire. And I think Lisa's comments are of great value and very good suggestions. I think this letter should be perhaps worked on and sent out at another meeting. My concern, and it comes from an old project that frankly was in El Granada. Somebody came in and decided to clear cut.
Yeah.
I have forgotten 3 or 4 lots that they wanted to develop, and they decided to clear cut it without any permits for the trees. It was, I believe, the concern of the community, and there was a mudslide as a result of removing all of those trees. The root balls of eucalyptus do stop mudslides. And if you take a big euc out and replace it with a 1-gallon potted tree, hopefully the roots on the new tree will grow enough to prevent that mudslide. But mudslides are a serious issue. If you go to it some time ago, on Association of Bay Area Governments, they had hazard maps in fairly specific detail, and the hills in El Granada were specifically subject to mudslides. And I think that's one of the things that needs to be considered in all of this haphazard and rush to remove big old trees or even young trees. There are other environmental consequences, and we need to keep a look at them. And it may be that the best thing that can be done is to top the tree and take it down and let the side shoots sprout up and keep them at a reasonable limit or height, which can be done with a pair of pruners, frankly. But I think just looking at one problem, you're ignoring the others. And I think it's important to talk to RCD and others about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Do any other members of the public want to speak on this topic? Well, Lisa, do you want us to go back to you? You still have your hand raised.
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting how to raise it. No, I can't. Can I just say one thing about the previous item because I didn't get to speak again? I hope that you will ask the fire district to agendize this.
Yes.
Because if you invite them to your meeting, Gary Burke or Jonathan Cox will come to your meeting, and that will not serve your purpose. You need to go to their meeting and face their board your elected representatives. And that's my recommendation on that. Okay.
And I'm going to be rude and follow up without being recognized, but that's an excellent idea. And then you need to also post it so you could can have the same kind of turnout as some of the excellent MCC meetings have had. If it's simply on the fire board agenda, people will not know what's going on and they won't tune in for it.
You could, since the fire board meets the same night as the MCC, they meet at 6 p.m. You could have I don't know if you fit this in your schedule, but you could have a special meeting and attend the fire board meeting because it's the same night as your meeting. That would be the way to publicize it. Anyway, just thank you.
Okay. Did you want to comment on this any further, Lisa?
All my thoughts flowing through my head at the moment.
Okay. I don't see any other hands raised. So we will close public comment on this topic and go around to members of the council. First, I'd like to go to Claire and Greg, just considering comments that we've heard. Do we want to make any changes or even withdraw this letter for consideration at a later date? What are you guys thinking on this?
Greg, you go first.
Well, I'm thinking that the community is really upset about the barriers to eucalyptus removal. And we need a letter supporting a more efficient and speedy and cheaper process. I'm hesitant to not produce a letter on something that's blocking people. Now, if I understood what Lisa is saying, it's kind of like, well, the Planning Commission knows about this, they're on top of it. But I personally haven't seen that. I wonder if members of the public have seen it. And I also wonder why you have to ask the fire chief to give you a letter on an invasive species. If we agree that it is a weed, at least you should eliminate that phone call. Now, I do agree that a permitting process makes some sense for the reasons that people have stated here. I just want it to be faster and cheap. So I would still like a letter to go out, but I'm open to edits if we've overstated the case here.
Thanks, Greg. Claire, where's your head at?
I'm not too far off from where Greg is. I do think there's some value in terms of expressing some of the angst of the community in wanting a solution to this problem. I don't really see having the fire department say it's okay, you've got a higher fire hazard here, you should go ahead and cut this down as a solution, because as Catherine was saying, and as I think the rest of us were saying, you do need some sort of oversight. You don't want to have things happening wholesale that are unobserved and unwise. I think that both of this letter and the last letter kind of point to the fact that, boy, sometimes we could do more homework, but it's hard to know where to start with these things sometimes. At any rate, I think we should probably try to send something, whether it's as written or whether it's as we support all the efforts that people are making to make this simple and inexpensive. I don't care too much about that part of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and as the other co-author of this letter, I would just say I agree with you guys. I do think putting forth a letter is important to reflect the sentiment of the community and to start a dialogue. And maybe, you know, to Claire's point, maybe we could have done more research and been more informed and started the dialogue first before writing this letter. But I don't really think there's anything, I don't know, combative or really out of line in this letter. I feel like it's just reflecting the sentiment of the community, pointing out that, you know, the timing and the cost is high, and that you know, other communities are able to do this faster and cheaper. And maybe there's a way around, but it's not apparent to members of the community. It's not on the website. It just hasn't been clearly communicated. And so while Lisa is privy to a lot of information and, is obviously very aware of everything that's going on, I don't think most members of the community are. And I would be okay sending this letter. Maybe our recommendations for the actions to be taken are not spot on, but I think it just is a good starting point and opens a dialogue. And then, we can work more closely together with the county to try to streamline things, or even maybe just make it more apparent on their website or to the public that there is another way. So with that, let's go around to other members of the council. I'll go in reverse order this time. So let's start with Dan. Dan, are you there?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Go.
I agree with Greg and Claire and yourself. I would wanted to add that, and I really think it's important that everybody remembers that, we're going into a very early fire season right now. It's very dry out there. I sent, the deer are coming down a little early, I think. There's serious concerns right now. So I think that we should do everything possible to speed things up. I think the county should definitely take the cost of permits away and just make it easy. In fact, should probably offer to cover some of the costs for the homeowners to help move this forward and make our area safer. I did want to just quickly say, I was up in Golden Gate Park a couple days ago and walking through, and I noticed, it's so beautiful up there. I noticed that there are, large eucalyptus trees scattered about. They don't have the intense groves that we have, but they have eucalyptus trees, in harmony with cypress and other trees. So at one time I thought it was a good idea to clear cut, always with a replanting, a replanting plan, to be used right away, and lots of compost to absorb the water so we don't have mudslides, and then, replant trees. But now I'm thinking, well, maybe we don't have to actually do the clear cutting, maybe just significant, thinning, significant thinning. That's more towards Quarry Park, and let me get off. I didn't want to be too far off track. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Jill, let's go to you next.
Yeah. I understand the importance of this letter. I unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to do much research on it. I would like to see a little longer letter with more information about how we are at less than 50% precipitation for the year, just to make it a little more heavy and saying that we need to get on cutting these trees immediately and not wait around. But I'm okay with it. If you want short and sweet, that's fine. I wonder if on the second page, if we should take number 1 and instead of permits, say county permits, just to make it clear. And then change that, like Lisa said, replace trees with native instead of natural. And there is a list of vegetation. The fire district has a list of plants you can use on your property after you take out eucalyptus or whatever. That's all I have. It's a good letter. Thank you for writing it.
Okay, thank you, Jill.
I'm okay with both of those changes that Jill just mentioned.
Okay. Jill, do you want to make a motion to have those changes?
I move we
go around
accept
the rest
Jill
away
Dan's
first?
suggested.
Wait, can we go around to the rest of the council first?
Okay.
Sure.
Yes, we can do that. Okay, let's go to Greg next. Or sorry, Greg and Claire already spoke because they're part of writing this letter. So let's go to Len next. Len.
Yeah, I don't have any further comments.
Okay, Dave.
I do think we should add a paragraph saying we support the current efforts to simplify this process that Lisa was mentioning. I don't have exact wording, but it doesn't need much. We could actually probably just put the wording out of what Lisa mentioned in her email.
Okay. So I've heard a couple ideas for amendments to wording changes that Jill pointed out on action item number 1, the addition of the word county in front of permits and the replacement of the word natural with native. And then Dave, where were you thinking that that additional paragraph would go in this letter?
Hold on a second. Let me...
I can go ahead and put my screen back up. It got taken down for some reason.
I would say after the landowners are willing paragraph.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So something about, say again what.
Could
like
I make
the
a suggestion?
context?
Just change that sentence. The MCC supports the county's efforts to streamline the permitting process and the residents' efforts to make the community safer. So right after the MCC supports.
But then the bullet points don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about putting it in the last part with the recommendations or in the first part? I think it should be under the recommendation section.
Yeah, I could go with that too.
Yeah, I think that's a better place for it. And can I just suggest, I think this word is supposed to be tree ordinance, right? Instead of policy?
Yes, it is supposed to be ordinance. If it is what we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we would have a third bullet that states that we
So
support
let me sort of read it out, paraphrasing Lisa's email. The MCC supports the Board of Supervisors' current efforts to streamline fuel reduction, including streamlining the process for eucalyptus removal.
Okay. Could we put it in between 1 and 2?
Sure. You're right. That would be a better order. So the MCC supports the Board of Supervisors.
I think it was starting with the MCC supports is sort of duplicative. We already are support. This is what we support. We're urging the action. So
now that's why I didn't have it here because it's not an action.
Something like completion of the Board of Supervisors
current efforts to streamline fuel reduction and streamlining the process for eucalyptus removal.
Something like that.
Yeah. And probably, given what we have right here, instead of process, it should say permitting.
Permitting. Okay.
I don't like those 2 streamlines, but
yeah.
Yeah, get rid of the second one.
Actually, what about this?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
One more person in here will have a perfect letter.
Okay, so we have three, okay, and then there was a request to remove San Mateo County Planning, which we don't need to have as a motion, but okay, so can someone make a motion to make all of these
I move we
changes?
accept the letter as amended.
We have to amend the letter first, so make a motion to amend the letter.
I move
I
we
move to
amend
amend the letter.
the
Okay,
letter
Dave
as
moves.
we just discussed.
Dave
Sec-
moves. Do we have a
Second.
second? Heard a lot of seconds. We'll give Greg the second. Let's vote. Unless anyone has any comments. Let's go ahead and vote on the amending the letter with 1, 2, 3, 4 changes here. Dave, can you call the roll?
I can. This is the motion to amend. Len,
Yes,
Claire,
Yes,
Greg,
Yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Yes,
Bill. Sorry.
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
and I'm also yes. The amendment passes 7-0.
Okay. Come to think of it, I don't think we had a motion on the table for the letter, but we should have that.
That's minor error process there. I'll
Yeah.
move that we approve the letter as amended.
second,
Okay, let's take a vote.
Okay, Len,
yes,
Claire,
yes,
Greg,
yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
yes,
Dan,
yes.
and I'm yes, so unanimous.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for your help on that. We will now
Can-
move on. Oh, go ahead.
can I say one really quick thing?
Mhm.
When I said that we maybe needed to do more homework, I want to take that back. I think we do a pretty good job. And so these things are complicated. We're not expected to know everything. And I think if we're making a reasonable statement and request we have nothing to be ashamed about.
I want
Thank
to
you for that,
make
Claire.
another comment to that point. It-
Go ahead, Len.
Even no matter how good a job we do, the whole wildfire danger area is large and complex and will continue through all of our meetings. So we should do our best in each meeting and expect more to come back the next time.
Thank you for that. Agreed. Okay. Next, let's go on to item 4C, which is the Zoom account renewal. This is a simple request. We're not going to have an extended discussion on Zoom meetings as a whole right now. There's still a lot of information yet to come out about how things will proceed as we come out of the pandemic and, you know, the process for going it back to in-person. We're not ready to talk about that now. But what we do know is that we need a renewal of our Zoom license. So Dave has the details on that, and then we'll entertain any comments and take a vote.
This is very straightforward. The billing statement shows $127.42 renew for another year. I suspect that is not completely correct. So I'm asking for a motion to approve up to $175 to renew our Zoom license at the current level.
So moved.
I second.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a comment on this? Okay, let's take a vote.
All right, Len,
Yes,
Claire,
Yes,
Greg,
yes,
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes,
and I vote yes, 7-0.
Great, thank you. Next, we have the item from the consent agenda, which was the minutes for April 28th. Len requested to move those to the regular agenda. Len, why don't you go ahead and state why?
yes. I want to make basically a simple point about this. If you can make me a sub-host, Dave, there's just 2 slides I want to show real quick.
Sure, just a second here. You got it.
Thank you. So I will. So these are our minutes for our most recent meeting. I want to preface this by saying David's done a great job in capturing this backlog. I'm happy he's doing this. At the transition, when we swapped jobs, a point I was trying to make, and I don't think I made it well, is that these minutes, which are approved 2 weeks typically after our regular meeting and then published fairly silently to the public, are very detailed and informative to those who are really into the details. But I want to point out in this next screen that after the county supervisors hold their meeting, they send out an email that's 1 to 2 pages to summarize major things of that meeting. And this comes out within 36 hours of the Board of Supervisors meeting. I think especially with the kind of things we're discussing now, both the complexity and that they carry over from meeting to meeting and have important things to communicate, that we should look at doing something like this. This is just a report. It's informative to the public. It does not require this. I mean, it's separate from approving the minutes, but I think it would be another good tool in our arsenal to communicate. Because if you think of all that we've talked about today, and then you're a person in the public interested in it, the next thing we have are our minutes, which are reviewed much later. So I'm putting that up for consideration, not necessarily an action today, but I think it's a change we need to consider very soon. Thank you. With that, I'm happy to approve the.
Okay, Greg, sorry, I was on mute. Greg has a comment or question, so Greg, please go ahead.
I have 2 comments. One thing in support of what Len is asking for is there has been confusion, at least on my part, in terms of who's been assigned to do what. And if the assignments came out right after the meeting, that would maybe help clarify things. I don't know if it needs to be an official document or what. The second thing is a high level comment, and I know we won't go into it in detail, but so far during my term here, the two most senior people on the committee have spent countless hours working on the frigging minutes. And I'm not clear that people really read them compared to just a simple list of action items. And I'm just distressed that we have better uses for our time than spending a lot of time on minutes, but I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay.
So a couple of things. I'm not trying to get into an extended discussion. Very unusually, the April 28th meeting minutes were actually published and posted on April 29th. I'm not committing to that in the future, but it does happen. Any council member who has a question about anything that happened at the meeting is always welcome to contact the secretary, because the secretary is taking the notes. So that's always okay.
No, I don't.
And then on Len's proposal, I'll reserve that for a future meeting. It's worth discussing. I have concerns about it, mostly from a time perspective, but it's a good idea.
So,
and I would just say that also in addition, yeah, there was definitely a confusion last time. I clearly had in my notes who was responsible for certain topics, and the people got kind of mixed up, and the people assigned to each topic by the time I kind of revisited it, getting ready for the agenda for this meeting, it was definitely mixed up. And so I do agree that having a document like that would come out right after the meeting would be helpful. But ultimately, it's the secretary that would be responsible for that. So I do think we need the secretary's buy-in, especially considering that this, we've just changed roles. And so I would think that in the meantime, I mean, it's great if we can get the minutes out right after the meeting, and then that sort of solves the problem.
Michelle,
Let me finish.
Okay, finish.
The video is also generally available within a day or two, although I don't expect anyone to go back and watch the whole video, but that I was in this issue, or in this case, able to reference the video and confirm that the notes that I had taken were correct. But I think that in the meantime, because we can have this on a future agenda, I don't think we can really make this decision now, whether we're going to do this. But in the meantime, I think it is everyone's responsibility to take notes on what they've agreed to. And I, as the chair, can try to make it more clear as we wrap up each item, especially when we're talking about future agendas. Len, go ahead.
Yeah, both what you and Dave said gives me the concern you did not understand the spirit in which I put this idea forward. This is not an additional communication vehicle to the public, to our board members. They can do that directly by contact with others. This is a communication tool to go to the public. Basically, everyone who receives our agenda, I think, should receive this as a follow-up for information purposes.
Yeah, that's what I understood you to be saying.
I'm not sure Michelle did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Let's go to Claire.
Anyway.
I think Len's idea has merit and is worth discussing, but not right now, obviously. I do think that there may be other ways of getting groups of people organized to work on agenda items, and we can talk about that another time too. But practically speaking, Dave, you won't be here the next meeting, correct?
No, I will be back.
Oh, you will be back. Okay. I was going to offer to do the minutes, but okay.
I've got them 85% done already.
Okay.
So
Tonight's
sometime on
meeting?
vacation, I'll get
Or
them.
for the backup minutes.
In the minutes for today, I meant the minutes for the next meeting.
Oh, for the next one, sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't need to do that either. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Len's motion to approve these now, but we haven't had a second yet.
Claire waved her hand.
Claire seconds.
Okay. Let's
Any
take a
other
vote.
discussion?
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to approve the minutes for April 28th. And a second. Let's take a vote.
Len,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Dan,
Dan.
Sorry, yes.
thank you. And I vote yes as well. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Next, we're going to move on to council activity. I know that normally we just go around the council. I know that Greg has prepared a couple of documents to summarize activity on the LHMP and the fire topics. And those are posted to the website. I don't want to really take time to go through those in detail at this late time, but I do want to make sure we are kind of ending this meeting a little bit earlier than normal, even though we say we're going to adjourn it at 9:30. We're at 9:34 right now, but we have a lot of topics that we've been addressing over the last few months, and I have a lot on the list. I have for the future agendas. So there's just I would hope that we can try to in the next like 20 minutes or so kind of get through the topics, the activity that we've had, and also a more detailed discussion than we normally have on future agendas. So I will start with council activity. Does anyone want to speak first?
Why doesn't Greg go first? He's got the.
Yep. Okay, go Greg.
Let me see if I could share my screen here. Is that coming through to people?
Yes.
So there's quite a number of issues, and given the effort we put into letters, I have to ask for a sense of the council here on what's going on. For instance, we just wrote a letter on eucalyptus removal issue number 1. We could also write CAL FIRE, the board of the Coastside County Fire District, regarding a change to the ordinance that allows eucalyptus to be classified as a tree so they can issue condemnation orders better. We could write a letter, and now I kind of recommend that's worth some time. The second item about the chipper program, I don't know that we need to write a letter right now because it seems to be moving. As far as no early detection program for wildfire, Karen Allenson is looking into this with CAL FIRE, so I would just track what she's accomplishing there. I believe we are going to get cameras. As far as organizational issues like no single entity is responsible for wildfire preparation, it was interesting to see. I asked the county for that back on October 12th, and Lena just reported that there's this fuel reduction task force, which has now met twice in 7 months. So I do think there's an issue there, but I don't know what I would ask for right now in terms of a letter. The El Granada medians, I think that would be worth a letter, except it's a lot of work for the committee to do, the council to do letters. And I do understand that there is something in process, both in terms of funding and DPW. So I think what we might just do is ask for an update from Lena before we decide to write a letter on something that might be going ahead. The gate at the top of El Granada Boulevard, I'd really like to see that fixed. There's residents who are very upset about that. Karen Allenson and I wrote an article about it. I'm not sure, you know, given that we don't have Lisa's expertise, what the right solution is there, but I view that as a danger, and I appreciate feedback from the council. There's some thought about lowering the power lines. We could write a letter about that. Karen Allenson has agreed to attend the Fire Safe Council. I don't know if some other council member wants to agree to attend those. And then we have an issue that overlaps hazard mitigation, where we have a bunch of properties, or excuse me, a bunch of rights of way of Caltrans that have eucalyptus trees. I have written Pacifica Len to see if they can explain what the adjacent properties are, but we really need to put Caltrans on notice. This is a letter that really needs to be written because we need to trigger evidence of them being on notice for legal liability. I'm told by people who've dealt with CAL FIRE, Caltrans before, that putting them on notice does actually get them moving on some of that. As far as Quarry Park, obviously we have a petition from the community and more work is going to be done on that. This is a big deal though, as we've heard. Sampson estimated 150 million. You know, I would like to write a letter and say, spend 150 million, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then there's a similar area in the Caltrans highway bypass. I'm not going to call that a right of way, which also has eucalyptus trees. I think that should be part of a letter warning Caltrans that we would like them to get rid of those eucalyptus. I think we've already done item 13, written a letter there. 14, I think we're not going to get incentivized money spent for property owners because that money is going to be spent in Quarry Park and other places. So I think the idea of asking for a bounty, which is one of the thoughts I'd had, is not going to be a starter. And as far as escalating our concerns to the state and even federal government, and I'll defer to the other council members. So in sum, I think we ought to really write a letter to Caltrans. And I think we also ought to be writing letters about the CAL FIRE fire code to allow abatement orders to be given and condemnation orders to be given on eucalyptus and remove any barriers there. So that's 2 letters I could see right away. And I'll defer to the rest of the council on what else you think. Thank you. You want me to take the screen down?
Yeah, you can. Well, either way, you can leave it up. I'll entertain comments from other members of the council, starting with Len.
Well, I have sort of a separate, somewhat overlapping set. I also want to mention that I did attend the Fire Safe meeting this month and plan to attend them on a monthly basis, as does Lena. And we sort of tag team today. I want to ask Lena, is there anything further you want to say? We had talked about dividing this up.
Sure, I'm trying to think. Probably best for me, Len, is if you go ahead and then have me fill in.
Sounds good. Okay, so at the Fire Safe meeting today, it's clear it's a major council for the county as a whole, although it originated out of Woodside and is heavily tilted that way. With the recent change, they're really trying to improve their orientation. I'm going to share my screen on a couple of points just quickly with this. There should be nothing shared. Dave, I'm trying to do it, but it doesn't show up anywhere. Okay. I'm just going to talk to it then. Basically, in RCD's presentation, they did speak not only to the things we've talked about, their work with permitting near term, but there is a meeting, an effort underway. Let's see, Dave, is there some reason I can't see my share screen when I try to pull it up? It's not, just not showing. So
Maybe we can try making you not a co-host and then a co-host again.
could you cycle it, Dave? Maybe that'll work. I'm not sure what happened here. There we go. Okay.
We can see it now.
There we go. Okay, so. So in addition to the long-term efforts they're doing, they have a major planning effort underway that really looks as a 10-year window, and that'll be published in a public hearing in June. This is a date on it, so we'll hear more about that. But in addition to the thinning and fire reduction immediately, they are putting effort into long-term efforts. So that's, I think, important to consider. There's a backbone document that was written 10 years ago called the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. This was published at a national level and got a lot of effort in 2010. Santa Cruz County and Santa Clara County both put a lot of follow-up effort, but I think the fire danger wasn't really as severe here. So although it's in the background, it's not really yet in place, but I think it's something that we need to keep in mind. And I think the sensitivity is there's such effort there that broadly across the county that it's hard to expand the effort, but certainly RCD is working hard to do that. So those are, I just wanted to mention that, and that Lena does attend that actively as well. So I will, at the last meeting I talked about Panorama, introduced them. They're having a meeting with RCD and Parks at the end of this week. And if something comes out of that, I'll be able to report that at the next meeting. With regard to Caltrans, I've also, working with Lena, identified both the management level and the particular level people to contact. Besides Quarry Park, MWSD sort of has not an ownership, but an observational responsibility for the bypass. I've talked with Clements, who's reviewed that and has looked at it and sort of planned to bring that forward to Caltrans, as well as 2 other areas on Highway 1. But in doing this, I'm trying to coordinate with Denise Nia, who's the president of the Fire Safe Council and is giving a lot of emphasis to Highway 92. But part of this is just overall, all parts of the county and especially ours are working hard, something in a catch-up compared to where others are. So I've mentioned that as just a continuing issue, and that's all I'll report on today. Anything more, Lena?
No, that sounded great. Thanks for saying that. And I'm happy to give any notes from any meetings that come up, the Panorama meeting and any other ones.
Okay, that's what I have, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. And one other small fire related topic is just about an update from Sheena about the chipping program. It's having its first events next week. There will be events in Montera and Moss Beach on May 17th and in El Granada on May 18th through 20th. Okay. So I think that's all. Those are all the council updates on fire. Greg, did you want to speak to the LHMP at all?
Greg, you're muted.
Yeah, just give me a second to get my screen organized. The LHMP, for some reason, I've lost it.
I have to say, that's a really long document with what I think have a lot of issues in it. Could you just summarize the really important stuff and not go through it line by line?
Are you talking about the LHMP document?
Yeah,
All right, well, the big summary is we have gotten involved with the county's local hazard mitigation planning. And it has been stated by county staff that we are now more involved than we ever have been in their thinking ahead. Whether or not this results in any money in advance of a disaster, certainly it will result in money after disasters. There are two areas that Len, and I hope I don't speak out of turn for you, but Len has volunteered to help with where we're not fully connected. One of them has to do with the Cabrillo schools, and the other has to do with Caltrans, which we talked about a little bit earlier. There are a bunch of open issues I have with CAL FIRE, and we have added into this list, with the agreement of the county, broadband and microwave towers in general, the communications infrastructure, and something that the president of BOSQUA, which is the water agency that everybody who uses Hetch Hetchy water buys their water from, something about drought and climate change and water system reliability. And the hope is that we will be able to posture what we're going to write up so that it will be funding eligible, because drought tends to get kind of low priority. It's like, oh, well, there's a drought, let's ship everybody some water. The real issue we have, as you're going to see in the coming month, is a lack of reliable water without major investment. So we'll be talking about that in the future. So from a council perspective, I think, Dave, you got us authorized to continue to work on this document. It does overlap some of the wildfire preparedness things. And Len, I'll turn it over to you if you have things you want to talk about that I haven't already covered.
Oh, I think I touched on the ones I had already.
Okay, we have a question from Claire.
I'm a little bit confused because Greg, you keep saying we will do this or we're doing that, or who is we?
Well, me is so far me and Len. Len has agreed to help with Cabrillo schools and Caltrans.
Is this as part of the council or what?
That's my understanding. We believe took a vote last time to authorize us to work on the LHMP with the county. Right, Dave?
yeah, that's what I moved and what we approved.
Okay, so I'm just okay. I guess I need to get up to speed somehow. If never mind. It just feels a little loose.
Oh,
Well, you're happy. I mean, you're welcome to talk to me offline, and it is loose.
It's similar to other liaison roles. Greg can't commit us to anything, but he can have a lot of discussions and back and forth and bring things both directions.
But we're not looking for funding, are we?
No, I don't believe the MCC will be eligible, but the agencies on the Midcoast, like Montero Water and Sanitary District, GCSD, will be eligible. And Sam in particular, with some leadership from one of the sponsoring agencies, will be eligible. At the SAM meeting on Monday, it was notable that GCSD didn't think it had any risks worth mitigating in the event of a disaster. And the Half Moon Bay representative was extremely negative about our prospects for getting money, even though SAM's put together a good program of what they need to do to deal with disasters. So I'm hoping that Montero will be the lead agency advancing that. And I guarantee you that if there is a disaster, you'll see why we need the money.
I'm just having a little bit of trouble conceptualizing how the MCC is part of that, but I will leave that at be.
Let me just explain that until I got involved, there was no connection between the agencies I just mentioned and the local hazard mitigation plan. Even the Half Moon Bay Water Agency wasn't part of it in 2016, which seemed crazy because this is a formal process to prepare for funding and response in the event of disasters. we were not even represented.
Okay. I think it's, let's move on. Thank you for the work on that, Greg and Len. Please continue to keep us updated. Any other council activity to report? No? Okay. Len, you can stop sharing your screen. Let's move on. Let's move on to item 6, future agendas. So I have 3 things on the agenda for next time. Actually, I'm just looking back at my notes, and I'm not sure that we've ever either Claire or Dave ever confirmed with Samtrans that Reimagine Samtrans would be on the agenda for next time.
Yes, yes.
You
They
did
are
confirm?
planning. Yes.
Okay.
I
So that will.
gave it.
Okay. That's confirmed then. I know that there was this Sam lawsuit. That was something that I thought it was supposed to be me, Greg, and Claire, but I think Dan has gotten involved in it now, so I'm stepping back. So Claire, Greg, and Dan, are you guys going to be prepared to have something on that for the May 26th meeting, or do you want to push that to June?
I think we're okay.
We're ready.
Okay, and okay, so then it's going to be a question of urgency with all the other issues, because I'm about to list a whole bunch of things. The other thing is that I have kind of as a placeholder for the May 20, oops, I said 28th, it should be 26th meeting, is the newsletter. I want to keep doing this newsletter. It worked out pretty well last time. We got some good feedback last week and some additional interest. So we just need to have a brief agenda topic at ideally the next meeting to align on the topics for the newsletter, assign it, and then we'll follow the same process that we did last time with Jill serving as the main editor, and I will be the technical person to put that out. So that shouldn't be a long agenda item, but just if we do have that on there, I would encourage everyone to think about what they would like to see in the newsletter. It's not going to be a discussion of whether we will continue the newsletter or not. We're going to continue it, but it's just to assign the topics. And then here are the other things that I'm hearing as potential future agenda topics. We got some communication. This is probably going to be later in June or July, but about the Harbor District Master Plan. There's potentially the LHMP, although that could just be covered under future or under council activity. There was the Comcast outage and whether we do something about that. There's a meeting summary topic that Len brought up. I received communication from a new organization called Coast Pride that's interested in getting a letter of support for them. So that could be a topic. Greg brought up the Caltrans right-of-ways and the other fire-related issues, including the code for the CAL FIRE code to classify eucalyptus. So all of those things are up for potential future agenda items. Maybe even you guys have more to add, but let's start with that. Does anyone have anything else they want to add to the list?
The particular thing I mentioned is Panorama RCD and Parks will meet this week. So I'll know after that meeting whether that will result in a need for a letter.
Okay. Panorama letter. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so of all the things I mentioned, anyone have any things that they want to raise as important for the May
Virginia
26th
crosswalk may be coming forward within 6 weeks.
Okay, I'll put that on the list too. So should we stick with the 3 things I have planned for the 26th? I'd like to add the coastside letter of support, which hopefully won't be controversial or add much discussion. Potentially, anyone want to switch, advocate for another topic coming? Or I guess what we can do, if no one feels strongly right at this moment, is just wait until we get closer. We won't reschedule anyone we have coming to present. So the Reimagine Samtrans would still be confirmed for sure, but as we get closer, I guess we can adjust other items if necessary, if anything comes up like panorama, the panorama letter, or Virginia crosswalk or anything like that. But I'd like to have no more than 3 or maybe 4 if they're too small items on each agenda. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank
So
you,
I put in the
everyone.
chat the 3 letters I think relate to fire. Okay.
Okay. And do you want to solicit other members of the council to start working with you on, do you want to prioritize one, Greg?
I think the Caltrans evacuation route is the first letter that needs to be written because it's an emergency. I'm
Mhm.
not sure about the lock gate atop El Granada Boulevard. I know that Cal Fire and other people are concerned about it, so maybe that doesn't have to be our top priority, but it certainly is a community priority and it's a danger. And then I
Mhm.
think the fire code changes are also pretty easy to request. I'm happy to draft the letters. I'm happy to have help.
So Greg, what do you
Leave it up to
mean
the
on
council.
Caltrans evacuation?
The 5 properties we mentioned, which were 4 eucalyptus groves on Highway 1.
No, I know what you
And
mean.
then
Yeah. I would work with you on that. I'm not sure it's going to bring a letter next week, but we should work on it together.
I think it's important. Yeah, I would agree that that's, of these 3, the most important or the most urgent. So why don't the 2 of you work on that? If a 3rd person wants to join, or I can be the 3rd person. I'm not going to guarantee that'll be on there for the 26th, but I think it's important to start working on it now. Do all of our research and make sure we come with a strong letter. Okay. That sounds like a good plan then.
And accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Go for it.
But we're having so much fun.
Glenn,
Look, let's get out by 10.
Claire,
Claire,
Yes.
Greg,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Dave, yes. Thank you all. Goodbye.
bye-bye.
Have a nice vacation, Dave.
Thank you.